I was 3 minutes into explaining orbital mechanics to a classroom of the galaxy's finest when the human walked in, and I knew, immediately, that my carefully structured lecture was about to become completely irrelevant. The door didn't swoosh open dramatically. It didn't explode inward. It just opened, and there she stood, holding a disposable cup of something that smelled like burnt soil, wearing what I can only describe as fabric designed for sleeping, and looking at the room full of crystalline Vexri, armored Kulthari, and gelatinous Fendori, like we were the ones who'd made a mistake. "This Xenobiology 304, she asked, taking a sip of her drink. I consulted my datapad. "This is advanced astrophysics, 2 levels above the xenobiology wing." Huh. She walked in anyway, chose a seat in the back, and propped her feet up on the desk. Her shoes, and I use that term loosely, appeared to be held together with some kind of fabric tape. "Cool. I'll just sit in, if that's okay. My class doesn't start for another hour." It was not okay. Nothing about this was okay. "But I'm Sivv'reth, senior researcher at the Galactic Institute for Advanced Sciences, and I've taught everyone from Hive collective drones to solitary wraith philosophers. I could handle one wayward human." As I was saying, I continued, my crystalline voice modulator picking up perhaps more irritation than I intended. "The gravitational constant remains." "Question," the human interrupted. Every sensory organ in my body wanted to close. "Yes? You mentioned the Wraith home system has 6 planets in a resonant chain. What's stopping a 7th from falling into that pattern?" I stared at her. The question was actually sophisticated. The mathematical probability of a 7th body achieving stable resonance is approximately 1 in 4.3 billion. The energy requirements alone would, but not impossible. Technically no, but cool. She went back to her drink. I lost my place in my notes 3 times in the next 5 minutes because she kept looking at things I'd been teaching for 16 cycles, with this expression like she was watching children play with toys. Not contempt, exactly. Something worse. Amusement. The Kulthari student next to her, a decorated military officer named Thakmor, leaned over. "You are human, yes? I have read the threat assessment files. Your species is classified as emerging predator class from a Deathworld." "Yup." She didn't look up from her cup. "Your planet has survived multiple extinction events. Your ancestors hunted megafauna with primitive weapons. You possess forward-facing eyes, persistence hunting adaptations, and an abnormally high pain tolerance." "Sounds about right." "Then why—" Thakmor's mandibles clicked with confusion. "Do you look like that?" I'll admit, I was curious too. The human was short by galactic standards, soft-looking, with no visible armor plating, no natural weapons, and was wearing something with text on it that read, "I paused my game to be here." Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. She had dark circles under her eyes. She looked, by any reasonable standard, harmless. She finally looked at Thakmor. "What's your threat classification?" "Apex Predator. Category 7 combat rating." "Cool. What's the scariest thing on your homeworld?" Thakmor's chest plates expanded with pride. "The Rakthar. Armored hunters, 3 times my mass, claws that can shred starship hulls. Do they live in the water?" "No. They cannot swim. Water is not compatible with our evolutionary path." The human's smile was small, but I felt it in my thorax like a temperature drop. "Yeah, we've got those too. We call them lions, bears, tigers. They're scary, sure." She took another sip. "But they don't go in the water either." "So your oceans are safe?" Thakmor concluded. "Oh, buddy, no." She set down her cup. "See, on Earth, we don't really have safe places. But the ocean? The ocean is special. 70% of our planet is water, and we've explored maybe 5% of it. You know why?" The classroom had gone quiet. Even I had stopped pretending to work on my lecture notes. "Because," she continued, her voice dropping into this conversational tone that somehow made everything worse, "down there, in the dark parts we can't reach without technology, there are things that make your Rakthar look like pets. There's this fish, right? Called an anglerfish. Lives so deep that the pressure would crush you into paste. It's got a light dangling in front of its face to lure prey in the total darkness, and a mouth full of teeth like needles. It looks like something from a nightmare. A Fendori student rippled nervously. And you fear these creatures? Fear them? The human laughed. Actually laughed. We make kids' movies about them. No, the anglerfish isn't the scary part. The scary part is that the anglerfish is considered cute compared to some of the other stuff down there. Impossible, Thakmor said. You're exaggerating for effect. Am I? Okay, let me tell you about sharks. She leaned back, getting comfortable, and I realized with creeping dread that she was about to derail my entire class. Sharks are older than trees. They've survived 4 mass extinctions. They have electroreception that lets them sense your heartbeat in the water. They have rows of teeth that replace themselves continuously. Some species can smell blood from 5 kilometers away. And here's the fun part. They don't even mean to kill you most of the time. Then why? Because they're curious. They investigate things by biting them. You know how you might poke something to see what it is? They bite. Just a little test bite. Except they weigh 2 tons and have 300 teeth, so their little test bite usually kills you. I watched Thakmor's combat-hardened expression shift into something I'd never seen before. Uncertainty. And humans, the human continued, warming to her subject in a way that made my sensory frills retract. We looked at these perfect killing machines, these apex predators that have ruled the oceans for 400 million years, and we said, yeah, let's swim with them. For fun. We have an entire week of television programming dedicated to watching them. We cage dive to get closer. Some humans surf in water where they hunt, knowing full well they might get bitten, because the waves are good. Insanity, breathed a Vexry student. Oh, that's not the insane part. The insane part is the orcas. What? I heard myself ask against my better judgment. Is an orca? Her smile widened. Orcas are dolphins, which are basically water-based pack hunters with brains big enough for complex language and culture. They're black and white, absolutely beautiful, and they hunt sharks. For sport, they've figured out that if you flip a shark upside down, it goes into paralysis, so they do that, then eat its liver, and leave the rest. They teach this technique to their kids. They have generational hunting strategies. Surely humans avoid. We put them in shows. We train them to do tricks. We swim with them. She picked up her cup again. There are exactly 0 recorded fatal orca attacks on humans in the wild. You know why? Because they know we're not food. They're smart enough to categorize species, smart enough to have culture, smart enough to hunt in coordinated packs, and they've collectively decided that humans are friends, not prey. The classroom was dead silent. But here's my favorite part, she said, and I wanted to stop her, wanted to end this lecture that had completely hijacked mine, but I couldn't. None of us could. Orcas aren't the apex predator in Earth's oceans. You want to know what is? What? The question came from everywhere at once. Sperm whales. 60 feet long, hunt in the deep ocean where there's no light, navigate by echolocation so powerful it can vibrate you apart if they wanted. Their clicks can reach 230 decibels. That's loud enough to kill a human if directed at them. And they use this to hunt giant squid in total darkness, thousands of feet down, in a world we can barely comprehend. She stood up, stretched, like this was all perfectly normal. Oh, and the squid? They fight back. We found whales with suction cup scars the size of dinner plates. There are battles happening in the deep ocean between creatures the size of your ships, and we only know about it because sometimes the bodies float up. Thakmor's voice was barely a whisper. And humans live near this ocean? Near it? We live on it. In it. We build floating cities. We dive for recreation. We harvest food from it. We stick our kids in the shallow parts to play. She checked a device on her wrist. Oh, hey, my class is about to start. This was fun, though. Good luck with your astrophysics. She walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. All those ocean predators I mentioned, we're not their apex predator because we're stronger or tougher. We're apex predator because we're persistence hunters who hold grudges and develop technology. A shark attacks a human? We track that specific shark. We find it. We tag it. We study its patterns. We've turned hunting into science, into hunting again. Why are you telling us this? I asked. She looked back, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that made my crystalline structure ache. Not malice, not pride, just a simple, terrifying honesty. Because when you file your reports, when you update your threat assessments, you need to understand something. You've categorized humans as emerging predators from a death world. That's accurate, but it's incomplete. We didn't become apex predators by being the biggest or the strongest. We did it by being the most persistent, the most adaptable, and the most creative problem solvers. We came from a world that's been actively trying to kill us for millions of years, and we're still here, not just surviving, thriving. She took a sip of her burnt soil drink. So when you think about Earth, when you update those files, remember this. Everything I just described, the sharks, the orcas, the anglerfish, the giant squid, the deep ocean horrors, we call that Tuesday. That's just the water. I didn't even get into what lives in our jungles, our deserts, our frozen wastelands. I didn't mention the microscopic stuff that's killed more humans than every predator combined. Then how? Thakmor asked, his voice carrying an edge of genuine fear now. Do you survive? The human's smile was tired, but it was real. Because when everything's trying to kill you, you get creative. You adapt, you learn, you build tools, you tell stories, you pass knowledge down, you work together. You keep going out of pure spite sometimes, she shrugged. And sometimes, when you're scared, when you're tired, when everything seems impossible, you make a cup of coffee and you just deal with it. She left. The classroom stayed silent for a full minute. Finally, a Vex-Re student spoke up. Professor Sivv'reth, I would like to change my thesis topic. To what? Anything that doesn't involve humanity, or Earth, or oceans. I couldn't blame them. I tried to continue my lecture, I really did. But my hands were shaking, my voice modulator kept crackling, and all I could think about was that casual, matter-of-fact delivery. Not boasting, not threatening, just explaining, like she was describing the weather. That's when I understood the real terror of humans. Not their death world, not their predatory adaptations, but their perspective. They lived in a world so hostile, so absolutely determined to kill them, that they'd normalized it. They'd looked at an ocean full of monsters and said, "Sure, let's have a swim." The human had introduced herself as Dr. Kess Okoye, by the way. I looked her up during the break. Marine biologist, specialized in deep-sea ecosystems and extreme environment adaptations. Published over 40 papers on pressure-resistant organisms and their potential applications for space exploration. Had spent 3 months living in an underwater research station. 3 months in the water, surrounded by everything she'd just described, and she'd called it fun. I filed my incident report that evening, updating the human threat assessment as requested. But I couldn't find the right words. How do you explain that a species' true danger isn't in their weapons or their warships, but in their complete inability to recognize when they should be terrified? The next morning, I arrived early to prepare my lecture. Dr. Okoye was already there, feet up, coffee in hand. "You're in the wrong classroom again," I said. "Nope. I'm auditing your class. Got permission and everything." She showed me a data pad. It was legitimate. Why? Because yesterday was fun. Plus, I figure if I'm going to be working on the joint terraforming project, I should probably understand the astrophysics better. She grinned. "Don't worry. I'll try not to derail things today." She absolutely derailed things. 3 weeks later, I'd stopped trying to maintain control of my classroom and accepted that Dr. Kess Okoye was now, for better or worse, a permanent fixture in advanced astrophysics. She showed up with her terrible coffee, her increasingly questionable clothing choices, and an endless supply of horrifying facts about Earth that she deployed like conversational landmines. The other students had stopped being terrified and started being morbidly curious, which was somehow worse. "Question for the human," Thakmor announced during a discussion on planetary formation. He'd taken to calling her the human, like it was a title. "You mentioned Earth has weather. Explain thunderstorms." I tried to intervene. "That's not relevant to—" "Oh, thunderstorms are great," Kess said, derailing me immediately. "So imagine the atmosphere gets unstable, right? Temperature differentials create these massive updrafts, and water vapor starts condensing and rising and creating more instability. The whole system feeds on itself until you get these towering clouds that can reach 10 miles high. That sounds dangerous, a Fendori student observed. Oh, it gets better. The particles inside are moving so fast, colliding so hard, that they generate static electricity, millions of volts, and then the sky literally rips itself apart trying to balance the charge. We call it lightning. It's hot enough to melt sand into glass, and the sound of the air exploding around it can rupture your organs if it's close enough. The classroom had that familiar, horrified silence. And humans do what during these events? Thakmor asked carefully. Depends. Most people go inside. Some people chase them. There's a whole subculture of storm chasers who drive toward the worst weather they can find to film it. She sipped her coffee. Kids jump in puddles afterward. It's considered fun. I had given up taking notes. My lecture on protoplanetary disks could wait. See, this is what I don't understand, said a Vexri named Charlix who'd been quietly listening for weeks. Your planet is actively hostile. Your oceans are full of monsters. Your weather tries to electrocute you. Your land animals want to eat you. How did you develop technology? How did you have time to invent anything when you were constantly running from death? Kess looked at them for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her expression, something thoughtful. That's actually a really good question, she said. And the answer's going to sound insane, but here it is. We developed technology because of all that stuff, not in spite of it. Explain, I said, giving up entirely on my lesson plan. She set down her coffee and leaned forward. Okay, so you've got early humans, right? We're not strong. We're not fast. We don't have claws or venom or armor. We're basically just upright apes with decent stamina and really good throwing arms. We should have died out. But we had 3 things going for us. She held up one finger. 1, we're persistence hunters. We can track prey for days. Literally days. We'd just follow something until it collapsed from exhaustion, then walk up and kill it. We're not fast, but we don't stop. Ever. 2nd finger. 2, we're social. Not just pack hunting social, but complex society social. We share knowledge. We teach. We build on what came before. Every generation gets a little bit better at not dying. 3rd finger. And 3, we're spite-driven problem solvers. Something tries to kill us. We take it personally. We figure out how it works. We develop a counter-strategy. We pass that knowledge down. And then we usually end up eating it. Eating your predators? Thakmor's mandibles clicked uncertainly. Oh yeah, sharks? We eat them. We turned them into soup. Bears? We eat them too. Deer that we used to hunt for days? We domesticated them, then we domesticated their food sources, and now we farm them. We took wolves, literal pack hunters, and turned them into pets. We looked at the stuff trying to kill us and said, actually, you work for me now. Charlix rippled in confusion. But why? Why not simply avoid the dangerous creatures? Because avoiding them doesn't solve the problem. It just postpones it. Kess grabbed her coffee again. Here's the thing about humans. We don't just react to problems. We fix them, permanently. Mosquitoes spreading disease. We invent medicine, then screens, then genetic modification to make them sterile. Cold trying to kill us. We invent fire, then clothing, then heating systems. Then we build cities in the Arctic just to prove we can. Can't breathe underwater. We invent diving equipment. Can't fly. We invent aircraft. Can't survive in space. Give. The Paris time we're working on it. That's not normal, I said quietly. No, she agreed. It's really not. Most species evolve to fit their environment. We evolve our environment to fit us, and when that doesn't work, we change ourselves. We're already doing genetic modifications, cybernetic enhancements, chemical augmentation. We're not even subtle about it. The classroom was processing this, and I could see the existential dread setting in. Kess must have noticed too, because she softened slightly. Look, I'm not trying to scare you. Well, maybe a little. But here's the real point. Earth didn't make us tough because we're special. It made us tough because we had to be. Every species on my planet that survived did it by getting really, really good at not dying. We just happened to get good at it in a way that involved tools and planning and passing information down. And spite, Thakmor added. So much spite, Kess confirmed. Never underestimate human spite. We've done incredible things purely out of spite. That's when the alarm went off. Not a class alarm, not a drill. The station-wide emergency alert that meant something had gone catastrophically wrong. My datapad lit up with priority messages. Hull breach, Sector 7, contamination warning, unknown biological entity. Everyone evacuate to the safe zones, I commanded, my voice modulator switching to emergency frequencies. Follow the blue guidance lights. Stay calm. The students moved quickly, efficiently. Everyone except Kess, who was reading her own datapad with increasing interest. You need to evacuate, I told her. Yeah, I'm reading the brief. Unknown biological entity from a sample collection mission. It breached containment and is currently dissolving through the bulkheads using some kind of acid secretion. She looked up. What were they sampling? I don't have that information. Now please, because if they were sampling anything from a high-pressure environment, anything that needs those conditions to survive, then it's probably already dying. The acid thing is a stress response. I stared at her. How could you possibly know that? Because I've seen it before. We've got stuff like this on Earth. Deep-sea organisms that produce all kinds of horrifying chemicals when they're stressed. Hagfish that secrete liters of slime when threatened. Sea cucumbers that literally eject their internal organs as a defense mechanism. If this thing is from a similar environment and it's breaching containment, it's not attacking. It's panicking. The alarm continued wailing. My datapad showed the entity had dissolved through 3 more bulkheads. The security teams are mobilizing with weapons, I said, reading the updates. That's going to make it worse. Weapons mean threat. Threat means more stress. More stress means more acid. She was already walking toward the danger, not away from it. Where's the containment breach? You cannot possibly think, Siv. I've spent 3 months in a tin can at the bottom of the ocean, surrounded by things that could kill me in dozens of creative ways. I've handled bioluminescent jellies that could stop my heart with a touch. I've worked with tube worms that live in water hot enough to melt lead. This is just Tuesday. She looked back at me. Are you coming or not? I should have said no. I should have followed protocol. I should have evacuated with my students and let the security teams handle it. Instead, I found myself following a human in a shirt that said, emotionally unavailable, toward the most dangerous situation I'd encountered in my entire academic career. We reached Sector 7 to find security teams in full combat gear, weapons charged, surrounding a sealed section where the entity had been cornered. The sector chief, a cool Thari named Vexthar, turned as we approached. Civilians are not authorized. What's its environmental origin? Kess interrupted. Vexthar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Deep ocean sampling from planet Thalarex. Pressure rating of 800 atmospheres. Temperature near thermal vents. The specimen was supposed to be sedated, but it woke up in completely wrong environmental conditions, panicked, and started trying to escape using the only defense mechanism it has. Yeah, I figured. Kess looked at the sealed bulkhead. If you shoot it, it's going to release everything it's got left. The acid production is probably already depleting its resources. It's dying. Then we wait for it to die, Vexthar said. And let it suffer? No. Kess turned to me. I need access to environmental controls for that sector. Can you get that? Theoretically, yes, and I need someone who can fabricate a high-pressure containment unit in about 10 minutes. And someone who knows the chemical composition of Thalrex ocean water. I pulled up my datapad, hands shaking. The chemistry lab can synthesize the water. The engineering bay can fabricate containers. But Kess, we don't know if this will work. No, we don't. But we know shooting it definitely won't. She was already walking toward the environmental control panel. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to flood that section with the correct pressure, correct temperature, and correct water composition. We're going to create an environment where it can stop panicking. Then we're going to apologize to it, try to get it stable, and send it home. Apologize to it? Vexthar sounded incredulous. It's a terrified animal in a nightmare environment. Yeah, I'm going to apologize. You ever been yanked out of your comfortable environment and dropped somewhere you can't breathe or think straight? Because I'm betting that's exactly what happened to this thing. She started working the environmental controls like she'd been trained on them, which she definitely hadn't. I provided the clearances. The chemistry lab confirmed they could synthesize Thalax ocean water. Engineering said they'd have a portable high-pressure containment unit ready in 7 minutes. This is insane, Vexthar said. We have protocols. We have procedures. Your procedures are making it worse. Kess didn't look up from the panel. Look, I get it. Unknown threat, protocol says, eliminate it. But this isn't a threat. It's a victim. And if you want to study it, if you want to learn from it, killing it gets you nowhere. The environmental systems engaged. Pressure began increasing in the sealed section. Temperature spiked toward thermal vent levels. The sound of acid eating through metal slowed, then stopped. It's working, I breathed. Of course it's working. Fear responses are universal. You just have to understand what the fear is. Kess monitored the readings. Pressures stabilizing. Temperatures in range. Now we wait and see if we were fast enough. We waited. The security teams kept their weapons trained on the bulkhead. The alarm continued, its endless wailing. And Kess stood there, coffee in hand, watching the environmental readings like she was checking the weather. Contact, someone called out. The entity it's calming. Acid production has stopped. Good. Now bring in the containment unit and we'll transfer it slowly. No sudden movements, no loud noises. Make it as gentle as possible. She looked at Vexthar. And someone needs to review your collection protocols because this should never have happened in the first place. The transfer took an hour. Slow, careful, with Kess talking the entire time, explaining every step to the teams, correcting their approach, making sure the creature stayed calm. By the end of it, the entity was secured in proper environmental conditions, stable, and already starting to recover. Vexthar approached Kess afterward. That was effective. How did you know it would work? Because empathy isn't weakness. Understanding isn't the same as being soft. She finished her coffee, which had to be cold by now. Look, I'm from a death world. Everything on my planet is either trying to kill me, eat me, or both. But you know what I learned? Most of the time, things aren't attacking because they're evil or because they want to hurt you. They're attacking because they're scared or hungry or defending their territory. If you can understand the why, you can usually find a solution that doesn't involve killing. Your world made you compassionate, I said, surprised. My world made me practical. Compassion is just the most efficient survival strategy. She smiled that tired smile. You think we became apex predators by being the most vicious? We did it by being the most cooperative. We took care of our injured. We shared food. We built communities. We developed language and culture and art because working together was more effective than working alone. She started walking back toward the classroom sector. Plus, spite. We really hate losing. The next day, I received a formal commendation from the station director for my assistance in the containment crisis. Kess received one too, along with a request to consult on their xenobiology collection protocols. She showed up to class with a new shirt. This one said, I survived and all I got was this stupid trauma. Nice shirt, Thakmore commented. Thanks, got it custom made. She settled into her usual seat. So, we doing astrophysics today, or should I tell you about the time humans accidentally created a self-sustaining nuclear reaction and then decided to build bombs out of it? Please don't, I said weakly. She told us anyway. Of course she did. But here's the thing I finally understood. Sitting in that classroom, listening to her casually describe weapons that could end worlds, delivered with the same tone as someone discussing their weekend plans. Humans weren't terrifying because they were violent. They were terrifying because they'd survived so much violence that they'd learned to metabolize it, understand it, and use it as a teaching tool. Every horror story she told, every nightmare creature, every civilization-ending weapon, every catastrophic weather event, she told them like lessons, like warnings, like gifts of knowledge freely given. You want to know the real secret of humanity? She said, finishing her explanation of thermonuclear weapons. It's not that we're unkillable. We die all the time. It's not that we're fearless. We're scared constantly. And it's definitely not that we're smarter than everyone else. Then what is it? Charlix asked. Kess thought about it for a moment. We remember. When something tries to kill us, we remember how it happened, and we make sure it can't happen that way again. When someone helps us, we remember that too, and we return the favor. We hold grudges against our problems, and we solve them. We hold gratitude for our allies, and we protect them. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. We're just the most persistent and the most willing to share what we've learned. She stood up, stretched. Anyway, that's my time. Thanks for letting me crash your class, Siv. It's been educational. You're leaving? I asked, surprised. Research station deployment. Going to help set up deep space monitoring equipment near a black hole. Should be fun. She grinned. Don't worry, I'll be back in 6 months. Someone's got to make sure you're teaching these kids properly. The Black Hole Research Station, Thakmore said slowly. That's rated as a Category 9 hazard zone. Yup. Radiation exposure, gravitational shear. No possibility of rescue if something goes wrong. Also, yup. And you volunteered for this? Kess shrugged. Somebody's got to do it. Might as well be someone who's used to things trying to kill them. She grabbed her bag. Besides, I hear the view is incredible. And you know what they say about humans. What do they say? I asked. She paused at the door, looked back, with that tired, genuine smile that I'd come to recognize as the most human expression there was. We go where we're not supposed to go. We survive what shouldn't be survivable. We learn what we're not supposed to know. And we do it all while drinking terrible coffee and complaining about the working conditions. She raised her cup in a salute. See you in 6 months, Professor. Try not to let the universe kill you while I'm gone. She left. The classroom felt emptier without her. I updated my human threat assessment that evening, but instead of focusing on their Deathworld origins or their predatory adaptations, I wrote something different. Humans are dangerous not because they cannot be killed, but because they refuse to accept death as an answer. They are terrifying not because they lack fear, but because they function despite it. They are formidable not because they are alone in the universe, but because they insist on bringing everyone else with them. They look at an impossible problem and they get annoyed. They look at certain death and they get creative. They look at the unknown and they get curious. This is not a species that will conquer the galaxy through force. This is a species that will invite the galaxy for coffee and end up accidentally running the place because no one else wanted to deal with the paperwork. 6 months later, Dr. Kess Okoye returned from the Black Hole Research Station. She'd lost 2 fingers to frostbite, gained 3 groundbreaking papers on gravitational lensing, and somehow befriended the entire station crew, who now referred to her as the human who wouldn't die. She showed up to my class wearing a new shirt. It said, I went to a black hole and all I got was this existential crisis and also some cool data. So, she said, settling into her seat with her terrible coffee, who wants to hear about the time our equipment failed and we had to MacGyver a solution using spare parts and pure desperation? Every hand in the classroom went up. I didn't even try to stop her, because that's the thing about humans. They don't just survive. They document it, analyze it, and turn it into a teaching moment. And somehow, impossibly, they make you grateful they did. That's why they're terrifying. And that's why, despite everything, I'm glad they're here.